Hello and welcome to a very special programme on the Kiltubrid Pipe Band. It's part 2 in the series. Part 1 was aired on the 18th of March 2019. A programme where I got to speak with John Joe Farrell, John Joe McGirl, Jackie Lee and Pat Flynn, who were all in the very first Kiltubrid Pipe Band in 1949 when it was founded. We got to hear in part 1 all about those who were heavily involved behind the scenes in putting the Kiltubrid Pipe Band together. We got to learn from those original band members about how the band trained, where they trained, who was involved in the setting up of the band, who trained them, and what the band did in those very early years. In this year, 2019, the band is celebrating its 70th anniversary, and a special event is being planned for Saturday, the 21st of September 2019 at the Loch Allen Hotel in Drumshanbo, County Leitrim. On this programme, we'll talk to some of the current members of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band, and we'll also reflect back on the previous 70 years. We begin this programme by talking to PJ Meehan.
Yeah, I would have joined the band in sort of 62, 63, but I officially would have gone on to the band in 64 on my first outing. And I suppose I've been on it ever since. Basically, I've seen the highs and lows and the tough days, the hard days, and the days when it was hard to get numbers. And we've maintained a good training system down the years. And we've always had a pool of young people coming on doing piping and drumming. And, I suppose, without mentioning any names, there's an awful lot of people that has been involved in keeping the continuity of the band together by way of people who've been on it for 2 weeks, 2 years, 22 years. All of those people have been the link with the band and never letting it die.
I'm here with Edmund Doyle, and Edmund, you also were a member of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band.
That's right, yeah. I was about 14 or 15 years of age when I joined it, and I was on it for about the same length of time. But I remember the first day I went on the band, we walked from Gorby's in Newtown Gore to Kilnavart graveyard. 3.5 mile.
Can you remember what the occasion was?
It was the Easter parade on Easter Sunday. The usual Easter parade, you know.
Frank McCabe from Keshcarrigan in County Leitrim now recalls when he joined the band first.
Well, it was the winter of 1969. It was either late October or early November, and I travelled down to Doyle's granary, which was situated at the back of the pub, and that's where the drummers and the pipers were learning. The man who taught me was Brendan Harris, a very good piper himself and very committed to learning new pipers. Brendan introduced me to the scale. Now there were 3 scales to be learned, and when you had those 3 scales learned, he produced the first tune to you then. And normally that tune would be the dawn of the day, because it is pretty basic and easy to learn. So most people got the dawn of the day as their first tune. So you progressed in on, and when you had all the tunes learned, you were then produced with a set of pipes. You were only supposed to, or expected to, maybe just blow the chanter and maybe one reed, because you were now getting used to bagpipes, and it was much harder to put air in them than the practice chanter. So that winter we had all of the tunes learned, and we were ready to go the following year, which would be 1970.
Before 1969, you would have been aware of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band and of that 1949 band. Some of the members would have been still in that band.
Oh, indeed, there would have been, yeah. There would have been a neighbour of mine over the road, Pat Flynn, and B. Carty and Jackie Lee, and all them lads were... I was well aware of the pipe band and often proud to be there to see them playing at events long before I started. And it was the thing to do in the parish at the time. I love pipe music, I love country and west music, I love traditional music. So, like, music is in my head anyway at all times. So it was surely the thing to do. Rather than going fishing, I prefer to learn a bit of music.
Now, when it came to your first outing, can you recall that?
I do, yes. As a matter of fact, 1970, I think the band had two very important outings, because they seldom left the county, and I think they done the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Dublin, and the All-Ireland Flag Yole was in Boyle that year too. And I'm almost certain that my first outing was the All-Ireland Flag Yole in Boyle.
Was there many other people that might have joined along with you at that time?
Oh, there was indeed, yeah. There was a Tony Early and an old friend of mine, Charlie Early, now living in Limerick, and Noel Cannon and Pádraig Rillans. Some of them now, Noel Cannon and Pádraig Rillans, might have been on it a few years before me.
I'm here with Cathal Harris from Mullaghey Cullen, and Cathal, you were in the Kiltubrid Pipe Band.
Yes, I started in 1960 on the tenor drum. I was trained by the late Frank Burden, that was our bass drummer at the time, and the late Tommy Mulvey. If Frank wasn't available, he did hand. And at the time, my brother was in charge of the pipers, and he took on training the pipers with the assistance of Pat Flynn. And he had an accident, and he wrote out the notes, and I used to take them to the band room that was owned by the late Molly Doyle, where the band originally started. I took a liking to the pipes, and I went on the chanter, and from that I progressed, and my first outing outside of Doyle's pub, greeting the crowd coming out from Mass, Easter 61.
Now, when you mentioned Doyle's pub there, that would have been where the band trained at that time.
Oh yes, the late Tom Doyle and his wife Molly gave the facilities a granary seated with forums, and they had generally had their own electricity, and they had the facility of the electricity, and in the winter time they had the facility of the heater as well.
My father was deeply involved in the organising of the band as well. And my mother, she was into music. She played the organ in the church for 40 years, got a special medallion from the Pope for it. She did the choir in Drumcong, you know. I was involved in that too, but...
So she was involved well with the music, and lovely to get that recognition from the Pope.
Yeah, she was a great pianist herself, you know. The granary, the band room we used to call it. It was a room up over the engine house. The engine house was underneath it, and the engine was for lighting up. It used to light the house and the shop and the outhouses as well. You know, a diesel engine, a Bamford diesel engine.
And with that engine, then it brought heat.
Yeah, oh yeah, it did. Yeah, because the heat from the engine was. The band room was over it, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then you had a gas fire, or you had something else as well. In the winter time now, you'd want something.
Yeah, and
because when you're practicing like that, you're sitting down, and there's no activity, and you're the elements weren't that good at the time either, but.
And there was good seating as well, because...
there was seating there, there was seats there, yeah, everybody, drummers, and the drummers would stand up but while they'd be waiting for the pipers to be practiced, they'd be sitting down, you know, it was...
And Molly would have done lots for the band behind the scenes.
Oh, Molly did a lot for the band, because I remember maybe it could be 12 o'clock, Molly would come up the steps, and when you see her coming in on the granary door, you say, oh, there's something up now. We'd be playing maybe, or trying to practice a new tune, and Molly would cease the practice, and she'd bring, it was normally my brother Brendan, and she'd pull out the little stool and sit in at the piano, because the piano music and pipe music, you can get the alphabet, and you can put the music to it after when you have the alphabet. And she would correct where we were making mistakes.
So she was a woman who really enjoyed the music.
Oh, yes, and her heart was in the band.
Who was training the band then?
In my time, Sean Mulvey, and then Brendan, my brother. took over from Sean Mulvey, training the pipers. Edmund Doyle was training the side drummers, and the late Frank Burden and the late Tommy Mulvey was training the tenor drummers.
Cathal was a great piper, and unfortunately Cathal retired a few years ago from coming out playing with us, but he's the big link in the chain all the time, because he has learned all of the pipers that's presently there, all of the young pipers. He's a great man to fix pipes, and he's a great man to tune pipes.
They tell me that I know where I'm at, so I can't refuse. And those, if they're doing something special, that they have a wedding or that, they come here, they leave the pipes if I'm not available, and I tune them and go up with them, and they seem to be quite happy. And it's something I took up, I'd say, roughly around the mid-60s, tuning pipes. Edmund Doyle used to tune the pipes, and I started, and Edmund had no problem with me starting. I'd say he was glad to get away from them.
What's the secret into tuning pipes?
Well, the secret is the chanter that is the music on the pipes. You have to tune it first. So it's by ear. Now there is tuners, but I never used a tuner. I always went by my ear of the notes that were played, and when you got two chanters balanced, you tuned off some one of them. When you had that done, then they blew up the pipes and you tuned your tenor drones. You did a bass drone, you had a bass drone and two tenor drones. So you got one tenor drone, and then you tuned your bass drone, and you got the other tenor drone in tune then, and you stopped the bass drone to make sure that the two tenor drones, because you had the bass drone okay already.
Yeah.
So you might want slight alteration on your tenor drones on some one of them. And when you click the bass drone again, seldom ever you have to re-alter it when you have it tuned to one of the tenor drones. Now, and you tune that then off the notes of the chanter, which is the note E.
How often would the pipes be tuned then?
Well, we give them a run over, a light run over at every practice, because if you don't practice your pipes and blow them at home, or if you think you're going to have one practice and go out on an outing, but tune them once, no, you have to have at least 3 practices. And if the right interest is in it, and if you're dedicated to it, maybe if there's a week between practices, you should blow them, maybe play 1 or 2 selections about twice or 3 times in the week before a practice, because you blow the pipes into tune.
Kevin Keeney, the current chairman, now talks about the fundraising efforts of the local community that helped the Kiltubrid Pipe Band so much over the last 70 years.
I mean, in 1949, I think in January of 1949, when the band sort of was in the almost the seedling stage of forming, the parish raised £95 back in 1949 to start the band, which is a considerable amount of money in 1949 in hard times. I think there was in 1970, around the 70s, there was a nationwide drive to raise money. I think they raised £1,200 in that day, 1970 I think it was, to buy uniforms and equipment. So in 1970 they raised £1,200. So I mean, and then when we did the trip to America in 1987, of course there was a fundraiser, to provide money to do that as well. So I mean, there's people are very willing to contribute towards the band when they see the tradition and the music that we provide. It's wonderful.
The leader of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band, the staff man, is an important role. Cathal Harris now recalls the staff men who carried out the role of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band down through the years.
I remember to see the first staff man, the late Sean Meehan, the late Tommy Mulvey, Joseph O'Connell, Corrie Kishkerrigan did it. My own brother did it. So the late PJ Guckin Kishkerrigan did the staff. Brian Meehan did the staff. He led the 87 parade down 5th Avenue. now we have Des Foley. That's my memory now of staffman.
And there's one man that you're leaving out that carried out that role too, and that was yourself.
Well, sure, you don't leave any value in yourself.
It's important to know a few different areas of the band, but you were talking to me, and there was one day, I think in Ballinamore, that you did a few different roles in the band.
Oh, they went in to the show day in Ballinamore, and the show field was here on your left-hand side on Aldram Hill before you went down into the town. I went in on pipes, and I went on the bass drum that day, and whatever happened to our staff man, I was staff man going into Ballinamore to parade the town on the same day.
Paddy McGreevy, a member of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band from Kesh Carrigan, is also a believer in knowing a few extra roles within the band.
Cathal, we'll be talking about multitasking, yes, and I have myself more than one occasion started on the little tenor drums there at the start and then came across onto the pipes. But there is occasions where definitely, yes, you could be asked, listen, we're down a tenor drummer or even a staff man, and I did actually lead the band there a while back where our staff man Desi was off that day, and I ended up leading the band in Drumshambo there at a parade, which was very, very nice. I'd never done it before in my life, but very, very nice to be out the front and lead the band. But yeah, I think if we can all be able to do little bits and pieces to keep the band going, there's nothing wrong with that, definitely.
And how many different gestures does the staff man have with the staff?
Well, he has the one, as I said, there for to mark time. He has the one for go ahead, and he has the one for right or left, and he has the one when he turns round to form a circle.
Now, when we talk about the staff, the current staff man is Des Foley.
That's right.
And you have one or two stories for us from Desi's days starting.
Yeah, Desi arrived here, it was maybe the evening before and out, and then he came back the next morning, and we paraded around the house here with the staff. I showed him simple signs to stop the band, start the band, and go to the left or go to the right to turn the band and to form a circle. So Desi took it from there, and Desi is doing it himself.
The staffman role, it surely came about accidentally. I don't know what happened to the last staffman anyway. There was no man, I think one day we had something below in Sligo, a flacciole or something in Sligo. So Peter Meehan, I think, was the man. He says, God, 40 years and you will live in the March, we'll go down and do this. I said, top, and so we'll go down and do it. And the amount of training wasn't too long happening now. There wasn't that much emphasis on if you held yourself high and put your left foot forward, half the battle in you. But you know, that was 1989, and I'm just thinking it's 30 years. Like, I'd only be a junior member of the band. Peter would be another maybe 10 or 15 years ahead of me. Frank McCabe would be way ahead again, you know. And they're a great bunch of lads, a great bunch of girls. It has changed an awful lot down through the years because they're bringing people in at a younger age now and getting them going. And people carrying flags, and all of a sudden you see them carrying drums. And I don't do enough for them, to be honest with you, because I'd be busy enough. But there's great people like Cathal Harris, Frank McCabe, PJ Meehan, and Eimear Gilmartin there, and they give up a lot of their free time to make sure that everything moves along.
And the staff man, he'd have a unique when he's out in front. He
has a unique staff. Yeah, we actually commissioned a new staff there for the 1949 for the 70th anniversary. We've commissioned a new staff. It was made actually in India, handmade, and Desi has that now, so we'll have that going forward for the next 70 years, hopefully.
But it's very fancy and it looks the part. It's like something you'll be getting conferred by the king or something, one of these.
And isn't it great to see the band now at 70 years?
Oh yeah, it's something else. The band and myself were born in the 1 year, so we'll do a kind of a double celebration, baby. They've all put a lot of work into the organisation of the 70th birthday party. Hopefully now we'll get good weather, and I think there's plenty of bands coming, and a good night here in Drumshambo as well. And you never know, we might get them back to play in Kesh and do the two pubs in Kesh as well, just to liven us up.
Another role within the band is the calling of the tunes. Here, John Shanley explains what that is.
The first thing would be left quick march, and then we would take up on the left foot. Then you would take off at that stage, you know.
So you stand on your right, is it?
At the right foot, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
On the right foot, you take off on the right foot. That's right, yeah. And from there you would start marching then, and when you get on so far, then you would call the tune then after that, at that stage, So it's usually actually Eimear Gilmartin that calls them now on the band at the moment, So and if she was not available, then I'd do it, So.
Yeah, I call the tunes for every outing. I'm the pipe major of the band at the minute, so I would have taken over from years ago from Francis Cooking. He used to be the pipe major on the band before myself. So I suppose I'm on the band 27 years now at this stage. I was on it since I was 10 years old, so I would have been the youngest piper on the band, and it would have been Francis Cooking, and my sister Patricia, she would have been on the band before me, so she would have taught me the tunes, and I would have played the tin whistle before that, so I suppose that was a good starting point. So once I knew the tin whistle, then I just transferred over my tunes then onto the chanter, and then learnt the pipes then from then on.
You got to see a little bit of the world too? I
did, yeah. At 12 years old I went to America, so that was a big deal at the time, because I suppose youngsters wasn't involved in many activities back then, and when you'd get a trip to America with a band, it was a big privilege, and it was a great experience at the time for being such a young age. So that would have been 95.
And it's great now, the band celebrating their 70th anniversary.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic achievement, I suppose, to keep it on the road for this long.
Well, the selections are maybe one, maybe two, maybe three different types of tunes. They're all marches, and the marches that the band would have played all down the years, along with different tunes that they sometimes play and sometimes they don't. It's just, I suppose, practice like everything else. But the main selections we would play would be like selection number 1 would be the Crusaders, Let Heeran Remember, and The Dawning of the Day. A lovely, lovely selection, and it's 3 tunes in that selection. And then we have another selection there, number 9, which is the 100 Pipers and the Curry Polka. We play that one as well. And we have another selection there, selection number 5, which is The Wearing of the Green, I think, and Kelly the Boy from Killan. So stuff like that. So we'd play all those selections. As I say, we learn them, we meet up normally on a Saturday evening and maybe an evening during the week, and we'd have a practice for an hour there if we've something coming up. So we try and get everyone together. I know the band is scattered all over the country, unfortunately, but when people are around and people are local, we'll go in there and we'll do the training and we'll do the practicing there, and we tune the pipes up and we have a little chat and see what's coming up and that. So that's where it comes from that. But practice is the most important part of all of it. You have to keep the selections in the head and keep the fingers nimble and keep blowing and get the balance on the bags and on the pipes. But it's good fun.
Now, 2 of the first mature students that you would have thought were Paul O'Neill and Paddy McGreevy.
That's right, yeah. They were the first 2 mature students that I remember on the band in my time.
And had either of them ever played an instrument before?
Paula had experience of pipes. Paddy had none. Paddy latched onto it very quick, so he did.
Well, it started for me, I suppose, from childhood, really. My grandfather, Lord mercy, on my mum's side, was a military man, as were all my uncles. And I remember as a child going up to Three Kingston Terrace, where Lord mercy and Granny and Grandad lived. He used to always be playing the Scots Guards on the records on the Sunday morning on the record player after Mass. And I remember listening to him, to the bagpipes. It sort of got an interest in it at that stage. Later on, then I'd heard bagpipes playing here and there, and indeed Kiltubrid Pipe Band all down the years in the Paddy's Day Parade there in Carrick-on-Shannon. And I married a Kiltubrid woman, Carol Heeran, and then we moved here to Kesh about 10 years ago, and I still was interested and always following the band and listening to them. And I just in 2016 then I met Cathal Harris there in Cardiff one night after teaching a CPR first aid class, and he was telling me that they were looking for members, and he asked me would I be interested in joining it. So I said, Jenny, I would, but I said, you'd have to teach me because I wouldn't have a clue. I used to play the tin whistle, but bagpipes were different. So he said that if we got a few more to join, that he'd teach us. So myself and Emma Heeran, who is a relative of ours, and a girl called Paula O'Neill, who lives in Drumshambo, who played with a pipe band there in Carlingford. The 3 of us joined it along with Des Eastbrook, which made up 4, and we started to learn the chanter first. That was in October 2016. So we played the chanter there and learned the selection of tunes up until February, and then I think it was in around late February, Cathal gave us the pipes because he was happy with our progress. Now, there was no drones in the pipes, only the chanter reed at the time, but our first outing was in March, St Patrick's Day Parade in Carrick-on-Shannon in 2017. That was our first outing ever with the band in Carrick-on-Shannon. We played Carrick-on-Shannon that day. We played Keshkerrigan like we always do, and I think we played Ballinamore as the third one. And that's how the interest started in it for me.
All the pipers that's on the band to date, I had a hand in the training of them, even the oldest to the youngest. Eimear Heeran was the right age to start. A couple of years before that, prior to that, there was youngsters started and they weren't able to load the chanter. And they got disheartened and they dropped out.
I think so, yeah. I always wanted to join, so I joined as soon as Mammy let me. I was 14. I started playing the chanter after Paddy's Day, and then when the next Paddy's Day came round, it was on the drums because I still wasn't on the pipe set at 14.
There's a history there of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band in your family.
Yeah, my grandfather, Frank Byrne, was one of the founding members. He was the big drummer for over 40 years.
And I'm sure your granny is delighted to see you a member of that band.
Yes, very happy. And my aunt and my mother were members as well, so they're all very happy that kept it going in the family.
You want to be between 14 and 40 to start.
Now, the Kiltubrid Pipe Band would have seen a lot of the world, playing from St Patrick's Day parades in New York to Birmingham, all over the world.
The first year we done the big breakthrough was by way of going to America for St Patrick's Day in 1987, and the build-up to that was fantastic. That brought everyone out. It got a lot of people involved. It got a lot of people involved on the periphery as well of the band, family people who helped out. And even at that time, we got the local late Sergeant Michael Gately of Carrick-on-Shannon. He organised together with Leitrim GAA a fundraiser by way of a church gate collection for the band throughout the county on a county-wide basis, and that helped fund us going. See, that time we needed to beef up the instruments and uniforms for abroad. In America, and we needed them refreshed anyway because they were gone a bit tattery. Now, having said all that, the trip to New York was a huge success. It was fantastic for everyone. It was great for young and old. A lot of us hadn't been in America before that.
I think it still holds out in my mind that first trip to New York was a big day for me and for everyone on the band. For us to be invited over to America, and this came about because the Leitrim Association over there wanted us to go over and invited us over. It was their slot to kind of be first in the parade, and we were so delighted to go there. Like, we were just an ordinary band that rarely left the county, and to get a chance to go over and play on Fifth Avenue was something else.
Fifth Avenue, right, a good walk. You wouldn't want to have arthritis.
I never forget that trip because it was very enjoyable.
John Shanley from Keshkerrigan in County Leitrim was also on those trips to America, and he has this memory to share.
Sean Guckin and myself were staying together in the Bronx, near the Bronx there, and we come back on the bus. He let us out of the wrong end of the park, so we ended up walking around the Bronx at about 3 o'clock in the morning or 4, trying to find our way home, with the pipes and uniform and tow. It was like a bit of an experience, all right, no mobiles at that stage either, so it was tough going,
I'd say there was a few looks, pipes and drums.
Well, there was, absolutely, but it's not the place you want to be. But eventually we got home and in one piece. Lucky enough, yeah.
You couldn't just flag down a taxi and put a big drum into it.
No, well, it's like it was difficult now, to say the least. That hour of the morning now,
And it was a big mission for us to head for New York to play in the St Patrick's Day Parade.
And from that then we'd have gone on to go to the likes of Bilbao in Spain 2 years later.
We played in this place called Bilbao, the most friendliest place ever in the world. Everything's have been, it was the Basque country in northern Spain.
That trip to Spain was very enjoyable.
And the reason for that was it was a Celtic festival, and Charlie McGettigan had been in touch with the people, the promoters, and they were looking for a band that were flight ready. And Kiltubrid Pipe Band, because of being in the States only a couple of years, So we were like an aerosol band. We were ready for the occasion, you know.
We got £2,000 at the time as our appearance money, which went into band funds. But have we not a fantastic week?
Yeah.
We had a day off from the middle. We used to play down probably play in the schools in the morning, parade around the town that day, and we were getting ready for the Chieftains. We're on tour that week. So every night we'd step into this place of 5,000 people and we'd open a tune or two before the Chieftains would come on stage. And then when the Chieftains were finished, for the last tune we'd circle them on the stage. And people used to be screaming, you know, we thought we were pop stars after 3 days. But and then we got a day off on the Wednesday. We were brought by bus to San Sebastian. And it's about 2 hours by bus. Again, a great time, bus full, with our guides with us and everything. And somebody in the mayor of the town asked us, would we play for a special person? Betty Davis. She was the famous child actress. She was 90. And she was on the 3rd floor of this hotel. So we all got into a bunch at the bottom of this, and we played for Betty Davis. Played 5 or 6 tunes for her, and she waved down at us and everything, and of course the crowd all gathered and all clapped. Then we headed for the beach afterwards anyway, but poor old Betty headed back to New York, and the poor thing died in Paris the following day, so I'm not so sure we had the effect on her. But Betty died the following day after we played for her.
The famous song too, Betty Davis Eyes.
The Betty Davis Eyes is right.
You played for some very important people down through the years.
Oh, did Mary McAleese up on the Rigna. We played for them. We played for in Leitrim Village as well. And we played then for Donegal Dolan when he was coming off his walk. We met him at the Shambo side of Leitrim Village, and we piped him into, down along the canal before you cross the bridge on your left-hand side, going down there, and that ended the walk for him.
We played we're in a competition down in Belturbet back in some of those years. We were beaten by the Longford Pipe Band, but the adjudicator was from Longford.
That was a close connection.
Yeah, we came second, all right.
Yeah.
More recently, we've been to Germany. We've been to and Turkey as well. So we've got around some fantastic occasions.
Oh, it was a great time. It was a great learning experience as well. And we went back in 1995 as well. There was less planning on that. It was a bit easier, you know. But then we had a change of membership then as well, you know. We had different people out with us that time. We had a young group of, I think it was about 7 people who hadn't been out previous. And they were out in 95.
I went to New York on that particular occasion. That was a fantastic occasion. That was one of the best occasions on the band I've ever had. My first time, of course, away abroad with the band.
Oh, was that the New York?
That was New York Patrick's Day Parade, yeah. And I distinctly remember going up 5th Avenue with my drum on my knee, and I remember looking into the crowd and I seen a guy I knew, and I could hear him saying, "Up Kiltubrid," and that was way over in New York. It's a fantastic thing to happen, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a brilliant time.
You have a lovely plaque here which was presented to the members of the Kiltubrid Pipe Band who were on that trip in 1995, and I'll just read it here. Kiltubrid County Leitrim Pipe Band New York Tour 1995, presented to Frank McCabe. Congratulations on such a great achievement and for keeping the tradition alive. Lots of luck in the future. We're proud of you on this great Irish Day. From all your friends at Kiltubrid County Leitrim Committee. That was dated the March 17th, 1995. And that's a lovely keepsake, so it is.
That. That'll be in the house longer than I'll be in it anyway, I suppose.
And that was something then that was handed out to all the members.
Yes, every member was presented with that plaque, and it's, as you said, Michael, it's a nice piece.
It is, it's lovely, so it is, and it's kind of, the plaque is, I suppose for anybody listening, it's kind of green in colour, so I think that's probably fitting in with the day as well.
It's a good thought on that.
Can you recall, Cathal, any other pipe bands in the area that may have been around or existed?
No, the fife and drum band had ceased before the pipe band started, some years. There was a fife and drum band in the parish. And it had ceased sometime, I don't know, but apparently it must be around the mid-40s, because it wasn't too long gone off the road until there was 3 men coming from the local pub, which was Doyle's at the time, and had a chat at Kiltubrid Station House, and that was Tommy Keown, Frank Burden, and the bass drummer of the Hibernian Pipe Band, the late Tom Kiernan.
And where would they have been based then?
Well, they were based here in the parish somewhere, but the exact spot I don't know.
Yeah.
I never did any research into it to know where they were based.
So the Hibernian Band are what, I suppose, pre-existed before the Kiltubrid Pipe Band.
It did.
After I came back from England, I was away in England for a few years. Prior to that, I was working on the buses in Dublin. And, of course, working on the buses in Dublin, you were working weekends. Then, when I left the buses, I went off to England for a few years. And when I returned, the band was temporarily kind of off the road. There wasn't enough of members to go out.
That's right. It was off the road for probably maybe 2 years or close on 2 years. And whatever event was coming up, I was asked to pipe.
To talk about opening the new football pitch.
And I thought about it, and I went to the late Sean Gucking's house, and I asked him, would he accompany me to the band members' houses and see if we could get the band back on the road. And they all agreed that we'd have a meeting. And we had the meeting, and we had no pipes. There were 7 sets of pipes missing. And I got them in a house. I won't mention any names. And I had to fully recondition them. In fact, I had them here, stripped out on the floor, when one of the first band members came in, and he says, I don't know what you're going to make of them, he says. And that was John Jimmy Girdle. Because he says, I can see no way that there'll ever be music out of them again. But we went and we got the pipe bags for them, which was the old pigskin bag, and the new covers, and the new cords for holding the drones together. And we got the band back together on the road, and we did the solo runs to gather funds, collect funds for the football field. And
they were out fundraising, and a few of us went as solo pipers through different towns. I remember one day being in Donegal with a good friend of mine, Cathal Harris and John McKeown, and we were playing as the girls were running around through the various estates, gathering money in buckets. And eventually everyone got together anyway, and we had a band for the opening of the pitch, and we were proud to be there to lead the Kiltubrid team round the field.
It was kind of at a lull stage then, at a certain period in the late 70s, and there was a meeting held and trying to get it going again, you know. Good few members had left, and they were trying to, there was no new members brought on, so then they decided there was a meeting held really to kind of resurrect it again, you know, get it going properly again. So I went to that meeting then at that stage, and I remember then they asked everybody what they wanted to play, you know. So I said I wanted to play the drums, you know, but there was kind of, most people did want to play the drums rather than the pipes. Pipes were too difficult, you know. So I think it was Joseph O'Connell then mentioned maybe that. I've with a family history and music and that maybe it was better if I played the pipes. So I ended up then, and I said I'd take up the pipes at that stage then. So it was like a few more then came on as well. Frankie Burner, Frankie Diagnosis now, and Paul Carty, and they were all pipers, and they all joined then, you know. So I kind of got going again then from there on, you know. So and it hasn't really looked back since, you know.
Now, when you talk about music in the family, Eleanor Shantly is your sister?
That's right, yeah. She was singing that, you know, so over the years, so that's it would have been there all right, yeah. I think she spent a short while learning, but she didn't last. Yeah. She didn't last it, you know, so she didn't stay on, you know, so yeah.
So you joining in the latter 70s, the Kiltubrid Pipe Band, we'll say probably 78, 79?
Yeah, roughly around that time, yeah, that's right.
So you're coming up on 40 years in the band?
Yeah, 40 years, that's right, yeah. Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And we never looked back since.
And since that, the band is thriving.
And Cathal, have you any other members of the family in the band or that would have played in the band before?
Have our daughter Deirdre played in the band, and our daughter Mary as well played in the band. And now we have our two grandchildren, Heeran and Heeran, and we have Nathan Meehan. He's a son of Emily and Morris Meehan of Rantock. His first outing was on Toaster in Shambo in 2019.
So that'll be that's a big moment, so it is, to be getting your first outing at the Antoast.
Yeah, he should be proud of himself, a proud boy, representing his local town.
That whole process back in 1948, when the meetings first started, and then the band getting together, going along to those events and putting in the foundation for what's there now, that was an incredible achievement.
Well, it was, and it was done in hard times as well, and it was done obviously in times when money was scarce, and trying to get uniforms put together and instruments bought and drums bought and stuff like that. I can imagine at that time, well, from what we've heard, it was a major task. They used to run card games here, and the local women of the parish at the time got together and sewed up the kilts for the band in the early years, and they sat down and they were very good at their hands, and they made the kilts at that time.
The ladies' committee.
The ladies' committee of the parish or of the band, but I don't know which it was, but it was basically a group of women. I was told reliably at the time that they made the kilts.
And I'm here with Mary Harris. Mary, you can talk to us now a little bit about the role that the ladies played behind the scenes in the Kiltubrid Pipe Band.
Now, that was an important role, Mike, I can tell you. We fed them all the way. There was quite a bit of fundraising to be done for all those trips that they made outside the country. And all the ladies of the parish helped out in providing the food at the different functions. So it was great fun. We had a great time doing it. It was hard work, of course, but we enjoyed every minute of it, and there was some fantastic stories that we could tell about it.
Did you get to go on any of the trips when they go abroad?
I was on the first trip to New York, which was a fabulous experience. America, Turkey, Germany and Birmingham.
Now, you're a wife to Cathal, who we would have heard on the programme, and I suppose, did he ever try to get you to join up?
No, definitely not. There was times when I thought I would just take and run for my life, because every time I came in that back door, he was stuck in either the old type bagpipes, greasing them and whatever else. And no, I had no interest at all. But anyway, I stuck with him at it, and it's his whole life, really.
We heard Cathal talk about the band getting back together and the bagpipes. I think it was 7 he mentioned that he started working on in the house.
That's correct, yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of memories going back to that.
Oh, there is indeed. On the middle of the kitchen floor, no less, trying to get around all that stuff to try and get something to eat after coming in from work. But anyway, it paid off. He got there with it, and I hope to continue to keep it going.
Peter Meehan, Cathal Harris, and a few of those men has kept it going since, and seem to get new members every year, which is a great thing.
But it was great times. It's great to be able to talk about it, and I suppose it formed part of our life, and it was a great community thing. It's I suppose we're the pride of the parish, the pride of the county, and we've served a purpose, and when you go anywhere and mention you're from Leitrim or Kiltubrid, you'll ask, well, the Kiltubrid Pipe Band, and of course that's your way of talking about it then, to the people and that,
And in terms of, we'll say, the band now and fundraising, how is that done, or is it self-funded by the members?
Well, it's something. What we did for a good few years there, we used to have a collection in kind of the Mid-Leitrim, Drumshanbo, Ballinamore, Garda division, up to Carrick and Shannon, and we had those collections on an annual basis. For some reason, we stopped them in 2009. They were a great source of income. We built up a kitty, which left us in a good position that we didn't have to fundraise in the meantime. Fundraising as such is, well, when we do an outing now, we get a fee for it, just to cover the expenses and that, and that keeps us going,
Would you have a message now for the current Kiltubrid Pipe Band members?
I would. I won't be always a trainer, but I want them to stick together, and when there's a practice called, try and sacrifice and attend the practice. And that's what will keep the band united and keep it on the road. 70 years on the road, and they're young enough, and I hope they're all alive when it's 100. But they're all young enough to see the 100th anniversary of the band, or a lot of them anyway.
After hearing Cathal Harris speak about the fact that he won't be a trainer forever, I put it to John Shanley and to Paddy McGreevy. Would it be something they'd like to do to carry on the tradition and pass on the knowledge?
Definitely, it was something that I would be very, very interested in doing, would be learning the ropes from Cathal, and maybe through time passing that on to newer members and younger members coming along in the future to keep the tradition and keep the band alive in the community. And sure, look, if we can do that, isn't it great to be able to pass on the legacy from the band?
When it comes to this sort of thing, everybody kind of runs for the hills, really. People don't really want taking on extra stuff and that, But I suppose it's... you never say never, really. You would try your best if you could. If you could help in that direction. There has to be somebody to do it. So I'm sure there'd be other people interested in it as well. So I suppose you wouldn't rule out anything. That's sort of the way.
I think if the young pipers and drummers who have Cathal and PJ has learnt them down through the years, and Kevin Keeney has learnt some of the drummers as well. I'd pass more heed on the pipes than the drums, but. If the young crowd stays with us and give us commitment, now I know there's a lot of things going on in young people's lives now, like football and various things, and there wasn't as much going on in my day, but if they could see fit to give as much commitment as they can, I can see a good future for the band. When everyone sees this show in Drumshanbo, maybe other young people will be encouraged to join the band. It's a nice thing to do, to have the band in the parish, and everyone, I think, in the parish is proud of the band.
That's correct, it is, yeah. We're having our celebrations on Saturday the 21st of September there in the Lochallan Hotel there in Drumshanbo, kicking off at 8 o'clock there. We have some bands, actually, we're still making contact with them at the moment to finalise things for us, but hopefully we'll have a couple of bands to play with alongside us that evening, and then we'll celebration start at 8 o'clock, where we'll have a few slideshow and meet existing members of the band and indeed past members of the band. There's some presentations I think to be made as well. We recently got new shirts done up for the band and new light jackets there, soft shell jackets for the band, just to advertise the band there when we're not out and about. But yeah, it should be nice celebrations, and hopefully if the weather's like this, it'll be great. It's open to everybody in the community. It's a community and a family thing. So the invitations will be going out, and the posters and banners will be going up, and advertisements in the papers and on social media. So it's open to everybody, and anybody that want to come down and take part in the celebrations, they're more than welcome. And you never know, they might even get an out tune out of us.
And I suppose to finish up, Frank, you joined the band in 1969. It's 2019. So
yeah. I think
we're wishing you a happy anniversary as well.
Yeah, and I think I'll get in touch with the secretary and find out if I have enough of stamps on. I do believe if you're more than 45 years, that there could be a small little pension coming out of it. So
I suppose any time that the band is out and about, let it be Carrick and Shannon or Kesh Carrigan, there's, I suppose, a time where you need to think for yourselves afterwards.
That's right, we do, and what we normally would do is Kevin would arrange there that we'd come back maybe to McKeown's there in the village. We'd have a pint and a pizza and discuss how the day went and how the band sounded, and we'd ask around about the people that we maybe were at it, would say to them, how did the band sound today? And they might come around and say, the band sounded great, and put the words to right, and then across to Desi then, the staff man, over the Foley's there, and we'd have another couple of pints and see what's happening for the next day and try to edge things forward to get an outing somewhere else.
Well, that's it from this very special programme on the Kiltubrid Pipe Band as we looked back on the last 70 years of the band since its foundation in 1949. It was spread across 2 programmes. The first aired on the 18th of March 2019, and you've just heard part 2 in that series. So, a big thank you to all who worked on those 2 programmes with me. A special mention to the current chairman, Kevin Keeney, and to the original members who featured on the programmes, John Joe Farrell, John Joe McGirl, Jackie Lee and Pat Flynn. And a special word of thanks to everyone else who featured on the programmes as well. So until next time, thank you for listening, and from myself, Mike Mulvihill, you can follow me on twitter.com/Mike's Power Play.